of what the left is doing about this. Do they feel disenfranchised? No, I think they're just going to blame the same people they always blame because we're all in our own little bubbles. Should they feel disenfranchised? 100%. Because in a society that treats sex as transactional, in a society that basically reduces sex to any sort, just a physical transaction that is based solely on consent, it makes it very difficult to explain why it is that the casting couch in Hollywood is bad per se. Right? There's actually, feminist theory says that it's bad because of power imbalances. But the sort of libertarian culture of the left suggests that power imbalance doesn't have anything to do with it. If I feel like trading my body for a part in a movie, well, that's my business. And if you say differently, then you're slut-shaming me. Right? So that's, well, you can't really have it both ways. Either it's bad or it's not bad. And if we are going to fight sexual harassment and sexual assault, it seems to me that we have to do a couple of things. One, we have to reinvest sex with value beyond just a physical transaction. It's not just two people who are getting each other's rocks off. It actually means something beyond that. There's a relationship that's attached to it. And beyond that, I think that we need to re-inculcate in men themselves, not just the teach men not to rape routine. Again, it's such a weird concept. When I was 11, my dad didn't sit me down and say, son,
you're saying that it's sick and twisted for parents to allow their kids to explore different parts of themselves.
It is sick and twisted to present kids with the notion that boys and girls are not separate in humanity. The idea that there is no biological reality to that whatsoever, so that a boy can be a girl and a girl can be a boy, that is a form of child abuse. That is the same thing as me teaching my kid that my kid can be a horse.
We're making comparisons to animals, and you're getting a chant for it. But I appreciate your point in saying that you would be willing to allow another family to let their child explore certain genders.
I wouldn't allow a child to explore the lie that they can be a member of the opposite sex. I disagree with the basic idea of quote-unquote genders entirely. If you're going to integrate everything down to the behavior of human beings, then we all have our own gender. This is why it's such a lie when people say that if you don't want to teach critical race theory, you don't want to teach history.
Earlier on in your lecture, you were saying that due process past the 14th Amendment has been equally distributed to all groups across America.
No. I didn't say that in practice it has. I said the concept of due process is dedicated to the proposition that people should be treated as individuals. Obviously, segregation and racism and criminal justice up until the Civil Rights Act would suggest that on a practical level, it was not equally distributed, obviously.
Okay, so in idea, but in practice, it was, you agree that it was not equally distributed to all groups across America?
Sure.
Okay, so then how is that in opposition to critical race theory that teaches that these institutions have been used to prosecute certain groups differently than others have been prosecuted?
Because that's not what critical race theory teaches. What critical race theory teaches is that supposedly colorblind institutions like due process of law are cover for racism as an institution. Due process of law is a problem because it is not because it is a good concept.
About a statement you made earlier when you said voluntary decisions can't lead to exploitation. I think that's a little misleading.
Mutually voluntary, yeah.
Because what it assumes is that, even in nominally voluntary, instances, there can't be exploitative behavior. And I get sort of what you're saying. Usually when we think of exploitation, we think of, someone being forced or coerced to do something. People don't have a lot of money, they're not making a lot. And so someone's totally at the bottom, and they, make a contract with one of these employers. They're making a decision. They're taking they're taking the least bad option.
Right.
And that employer might say, hey, you'll work for me, you'll work 80 hours a week, right, and I'll pay you $2 an hour. I mean, it's the least bad option, and it's a voluntary decision, but I think it still is exploitative.
Okay, but so here's the problem. In seeking to end that exploitation, what you are very often doing is providing them a choice now of no choice. Meaning, for example, let's take up minimum wage law, which is essentially, Lochner is talking about things like minimum wage laws, and talking about maximum work hours and that sort of thing. So the problem with a minimum wage law is that what you have now done is you've circumscribed choice even further, because you're not actually giving people a broader range of choices. Now you're telling employers that they have to hire people at a certain price. They may think that the employee is not worth the price and just not hire them.
Education background. So I guess a lot of people don't know what your undergraduate degree is in.
So I was at UCLA in political science and then Harvard Law School.
Okay. So you don't have you wouldn't consider yourself an expert in sociology?
I mean, I don't consider sociology a particularly expert field, but go ahead. I think I'm able to read a sociological study.
So you're not necessarily an expert.
Yes, there are lots of fields of study.
Right. Well, what I'm getting at is there's a lot of topics.
Let's put it this way, I know a lot less about welding than I do about sociology.
What I'm getting at is that you're not considered an expert in sociology, psychology, gender studies, lesbian dance theory, any of these things that you've brought up tonight.
I know a lot more about all those others than lesbian dance theory. As far as, if you want to take issue with the argument, I would urge you not to use the argument from authority, which is somebody has a PhD by their name, they know what they're talking about.
Right. No,
that's a dumb argument.
What I'm trying to get at is the fact that you get any other further education on any of these topics or any of these fields of study. So
I don't need a 7-year degree in sociology, no bullshit when I hear it.
And granted, that's your opinion.
Right. Because I'm here, yeah, giving it. So let me get this straight. You, Connie Chung, were sexually assaulted by a person who is not Brett Kavanaugh, but Brett Kavanaugh is guilty of assaulting a person who is not you, Connie Chung. That's the logic here. And when people say that women don't lie about rape, okay, the truth is, most women, I'm sure, do not lie about rape, but some women do. And some women have bad memories, and some women misidentify. This stuff happens. Witness testimony does make mistakes. This is why we require evidence. If an allegation were sufficient to convict of a crime, we would call that mob rule. That would not be due process of law, and we would hold by it, presumably, with regard to every crime. And the fact that we are now cutting out this one provision of crime because we're in the middle of the Me Too movement, listen, I believe that men shouldn't act like pigs. I've been only advocating this since I was a teenager. I'm the only man in America who was a virgin until I was married and proud of it. And so I've been advocating for a higher standard. Here we go.
Unpopular opinion. God is pro-choice. Never in humanity has God stripped us of our ability to choose. We see this in Genesis chapter 2 when God places Adam in the midst of the garden and presents all of his best options to him, but does not remove the most destructive choice. In fact, God commands Adam not to eat of this forbidden tree and does not remove the ability for him to choose it.
Yes, God gives people free will. They can make horrible, sinful decisions. That's the story of Adam.
Adam.
So the idea is that Adam did the right thing? That God wants you to do the wrong thing? That God desperately wants you to violate his commandments and do the wrong thing? I'm noticing she doesn't quote the part of Genesis, same chapter, where we talk about the actual commandment to multiply and be fruitful.
Multiply.
And notice that. Also not the part about male and female had created them. I'm selective Bible reading here.
Why is this significant? Because God is more concerned with our desire to choose him than he is with the legislation of righteousness. So while God may be grieved at every single abortion, he is equally concerned about the heart posture of the one who has to choose.
Well, sorry, I'm looking up the number for Child Protective Services. This is a person who has a very clear set of values that she wishes to impart to her child. Her set of values suggests that her son, being white and male, is naturally inclined toward being a terrible, horrible person. And so she must indoctrinate him to believe that males and females